Hello, my name is Blanco, the Artsy sister, and we're reading Saturnastra Loki. This is Chapter 5, Part 2. Alida then proceeded to change her position inside the car to resume her sleep cycle. A faint rain soon began to fall, and noting the rain, Ingrid peeped her head outside the window to say, "I think we should stop and set up camp." "Why, are you hungry already?" asked Loki. "No, but aren't you getting wet?" said Ingrid. It's fine, said Loki. "I have an umbrella, see?" Ingrid closed the window again to keep the water from getting inside, and Red asked, "Are we still going?" "Apparently so," said Ingrid. The slow pace suddenly changed into a wild gallop, and due to the wet ground, the horses slipped off the side of the road, and the carriage got stuck in the mud. Alida was up again, and in a very foul mood. She saw that one of the horses had a broken leg, and the main one had an arrow through his ribs, and the only small solace was that the ribs had kept the arrow from puncturing any vital organ. Loki too saw the shot and was running towards the forest, and as soon as the shadows had cloaked him, he changed his vision to a frightful specter, and whenever he was in a fury, his form took on other nightmarish, frightful, twisted form, and his time changing form so that each time one blink he appeared even more monstrous. And the first person he caught, he punched senseless, and he did the same with all of the others who belonged to the party or the supposed highwaymen. And when he was done, he went to tend to his injured horses, and Alida, who had been trailing behind Loki to assist him, noted that he had not killed their assailants, and Alida lingered a bit to get a better look at their attackers, and by the looks of him, he was an elder fellow of at least 15 or 280. It was hard to tell with elves sometimes. He was either 15 or 280 years old. Alida saw him coming too, and she wrapped herself around him like a constrictor snake, and putting pressure on his bruised ribs. Opening her mouth, she said in Elven, "Why did you attack us?" "Because he wants to rob us," interjected Ingrid, coming to see what Alida was up to. The only person still in the car was Red, and he was in no mood to get himself wet. And correcting Ingrid, Alida said highway parties are usually 10 strong. The number was Tulu, meaning that they were after our heads. It is all we can do to manage," said the young man. "A week ago some humans came and raided our camp, taking many prisoners, and when we instructed to specifically wait for a bombastic carriage with no guards, and 4 black horses and a blue man driver." That's a bit on point for it to be mere coincidence," said Ingrid. Speaking more to herself, she added, "This is probably Loki's fault. Just because the war is over doesn't mean that there are not people after his head." Twisting her head, Alida saw the copper ring, and she said, "I will not be so certain about it." Ingrid saw the direction where Alida was looking at, and without thinking, she removed the plain copper ring before Alida could pronounce the word "don't." And Alida released her caster just as each body she rolled out, completely devoid of blood, and chuckling, Ingrid put the ring back on the corpse, and she said, "Oops." "What's wrong with you?" asked Alida, taken aback by Ingrid's blasé attitude towards the guy she had accidentally killed. Like the elf assassin had a cursed ring, and then when she removed the cursed ring, he insta-death. Ingrid shrugged her shoulders and she returned to the carriage, and Alida stayed frowning, staring at the dead body, and Loki soon joined her and asked, "What's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a corpse before?" Dodging around the question, she said, "These people were looking for you specifically. They were coerced using that cursed ring. When it was removed, the wearer was drained of all of his blood." Loki held up the hands of the curse and commented, "This isn't a coercion ring, rather a covenant ring, and when the favors received from the goddess Heat become too great, removing the ring drains the uses of their blood, and most of the bodily juices, instantly mummifying the body. The removal is usually willingly done before the person dies or after death. There is a bit of a leeway with the removal ring. He must have been quite bloodthirsty indeed to have killed the poor fellow instantaneously." Loki was pensive for quite some time while he waited for the other captives to awaken, and he had them separated and each provided their own unique sub-story, trying to appeal to the sense of morality postulated by Loki's armor. It was well known that knights were duty-bound to be swayed by such sub-stories, and that most things knighthood was a concept and not a state of being, and depending on the circumstances, knights could just be as sanguinary as any other fellow. And Loki kept pressing the captives, and in the end they resolved to remove the rings to avoid further questioning. And Loki recovered the rings, and he placed them in his hair, and his party continued their ride towards the hunting grounds in a somber tone, and the only beings conversing were the horses. And by dusk, Loki had arrived at the hunting grounds, and they were rather silent, devoid of life, and there was a pungent scent in the air, and the ground felt wet even though it had not rained in this part of the forest for 2 days. Time, bro?
10 minutes.
The roads by now have been reduced to a small animal trail, and again the ground felt moist, and it was only when Loki arrived at the sea settlement that he saw the massacre, and the stone walls were caked red with innards, and darkening over the doorways were nailed body parts now dry, and crows lingered over the rooftops waiting and watching, and recognizing the scent, Red said, "By the God, let's get out of here before we join them." "Are we safe?" asked Alida. "You are safe as long as I'm around, baby doll," said Loki, chuckling. "This is no time for games," snapped Ingrid. "We are more or less safe," said Loki. "I do not sense anyone nearby." "Oh, so you say that, and yet you fell for an ambush," commented Red. "That doesn't count. I was talking with my peeps, so I wasn't paying attention," said Loki. "Enough already. Let's leave and never come back," said Ingrid, getting inside the cart. "I want to look around first," said Loki. "Are you going to loot the corpses again? Have you no shame?" asked Alida, taking a bath. Loki did not answer Alida, seeing as though it was a rhetorical question, and as before he looked through the bodies and he picked out whatever he found interesting, and he also collected the copper rings, and some of the bodies were indeed drained of blood, while the more tender specimens were left to the crows to be fed. And the goddess he was also the patron of carrion birds, and among these birds there was one which did not belong to the group, and before going to it, Loki closed the door to the storage house which had been left intact, and it was only forced open to get the elves, and while putting in the storehouse in working order he found a small baby inside a rice bag, and he wrapped the shawl around his cape which changed into the shape of a cocoon, and while his cape was administering to the small shawl, he finished tidying up the storehouse and locking it up again, and when he concluded he went to say hello to the carrion bird. And aside from the corals, the other carrion birds native to the regions were the wedge-tailed eagle, the ravens, the seagulls, and the griffin vulture. And the one perched on the tree looking at the settlement was the king vulture, and Loki saluted the vulture while waving his hand, and the vulture simply stared back at him. And after a few minutes of gesturing and hellos, the vulture finally spoke. "Impressive, how do you know that I was not a true vulture?" "You need not do better research, my little lady. Sure, you may read about birds, but where they feed in this continent is still up for debate among the common rabble, and you, my friend, belong to the Nugget Forest," explained Loki. So it was like a shapeshifter pretended to be in the shape of a vulture, but it was a vulture that belonged to another region. So that's how it stood out. So if you see a bird that doesn't belong to like the current region that you're at, and you say, "Oh, this bird is like too far away," it's not a real bird. It's like a shapeshifter. So yeah, that's something you can watch out for. Time, bro?
7 minutes.
"One is ever preoccupied with humanoids that birds tend to go unnoticed," said the vulture. "What happened?" said Loki, gesturing towards the decaying around him. "Man ambushed a lot of them as part of some blood sacrifice," said the vulture. "Most unfortunate. It gives the blood goddess a bad reputation," said Loki coolly. He added, "Still, it is hard to make a good impression when you are known as the blood goddess." "It would appear so, though it was not always so," said the vulture grudgingly. "Are you going to keep beating around the issue, or are you going to tell me what you need?" "Even in a disguise, a goddess does not address a person just to have a mere chat," said Loki. "I had no idea what you're talking about, and you pestered me first," said the vulture. "That point aside, I have a heavenly mandate for you. You're not the god of me, but I might take you up on it if you ask me as an individual and not as a deity. And don't forget pleases," said Loki, folding his arms. The unknown goddess shifted uncomfortably in her tree branch, and after pecking at her wings a bit, she finally said, "I wish to have you hunt down a fanatical cult who has been killing in the name of the goddess Heve, and their leader has warped the teachings of the goddess and is using them for his own personal gain. And what he hopes to gain for such senseless bloodshed is unknown, even to me. The why matters not to me, only his actions, and I have located 157 nearby members, and you will hunt them if it pleases you." "I was on vacation, but since you asked so civically, I will bequeath the death of the Fee family, and on my honor as the gimmick mage," said Loki, bowing. The vulture nodded in silence, and looking left to see the sisters in red, and Ingrid was in the middle of pulling at the reins of the horses in a vain effort to move them out of the dead settlement. And when Loki arrived, he took the reins, and their horses obediently followed behind him, and Ingrid pouted and moaned at her failure. And while Loki walked, Alida peered her head out of the carriage, and she asked, "What did the vulture want with you?" Red said to Alida, "Shouldn't you ask why he was talking to a dumb bird instead?" Time, bro?
5 minutes.
Some people can talk with animals. Spike does it all the time, said Alida. There's a difference between talking to someone and having an actual conversation. Pike talks the ear off his unfortunate creatures who probably send their lucky stars that cannot make sense of his deranged ramble, said Red sarcastically. And the carriage stopped for a moment to allow Ingrid to enter with him. And looked at them took the reins in the carriage and he continued the ride, and the passengers assumed they were headed to the next destination, and since Alida's attention had been taken by Red, Loki had not bothered to answer her question, and both were immersed in a debate whether people should talk to creatures and if the creatures were smart enough to have an intelligent conversation. And the carriage made a sudden stop at the crossroad, and Loki removed a portion of his cloak containing the tiny palm-sized child, and throwing it in the air, wings gathered around it, making a small piece of garment float, which then disappeared without a trace. And Red, who felt the disturbance, looked outside and he asked, "What happened?" "I don't know, you tell me," answered Loki. "Something did happen," insisted Red. "It is not my fault you were not paying attention," said Loki. "Oh, pooh, and there's no need to be so rude. Every man is allowed to have his secrets. If my inquiries bother you, then I will remain silent," said Red. "I am not opposed to polite conversations, but there are far too many matters which I am not allowed to go into details," answered Loki. "Where are we headed?" asked Alida. "To the Rosetta Fields, but first I must make a quick stop, and before you pester me about it, it has something to do with a commission I received from the vulture," explained Loki. "Ah, so the vulture does talk," exclaimed Alida. "Yes, and he told me to kill some people," said Loki. "Here we go," said Red, illustrating his incredulity. So the bird told you to murder someone. To go murder people. "No one is asking you to do anything, Red," snapped Loki. "Forgive me for not taking your mad rambling seriously," complained Red. "I would imagine a man like you will have an open mind," commented Loki. "I hate to side with Red, but not everything that talks to you actually talks," said Alida. You incredulous and perverted generation, for how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you?" yelled Loki, departing their sides. That line is actually from the Bible. It was like Jesus angry at his apostle. So it's Loki quoting the Bible. I don't know, I just thought that was sounded funny. So I told you, yeah. Time?
2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Now you don't understand, Ingrid, watching Loki take the shit into a strange form as he ran towards the wolf. What was that as he ran towards the woods? What was that all about, asked Alida. "He is certainly immature in spite his height," commented Red. "He need not throw a fit just because we do not believe him. Lots of people do not take my words in earnest, and I do not pitch a fit," said Alida, and she added, "Should we go after him?" "No, he usually returns by morning," explained Ingrid. She had traveled longer with Loki and was not used to his eccentricity. "We best set a cup and wait, and when we move ahead, we will make it harder for him to find us, and he will be even more petulant for us leaving him behind." Resigned to wait for Loki, it fell on Red and Ingrid to set up camp and unbridle their horses, and Alida could have helped, but she was not in the mood, and she curled up beneath her traveling satchel, and she pouted as her belly rumbled. And Ingrid cooked some preserved meat by the fire and offered a bit to Alida, and Alida scented the air, and then she said to Red, "Can you conjure me up a bunny for me to eat?" "No, I cannot," said Red. "Can I eat your bunnies?" asked Alida.
What?
"No. Harpy and Poppy are my familiars," explained Red. "He always carried 2 tiny black bunnies in his satchel, and at night whenever he comes, he will let them roam about. And like Loki, they always return by morning." "Familiars is just a fancy name for pets," interjected Ingrid. "Shows what you know, Troll Princess," Red then added. "What is a troll really? And how is it that you are a troll but not your sister? And how is it that you're both related?" "I don't really get it. Mother described it as a double replacing magical reaction. The example she gave didn't make much sense either. Think of it like a cat and a dog, and when both react to troll magic, the cat and the dog end up swapping heads," explained Ingrid.
What?
"That sounds like a sin against nature," commented Red.
Oh, yeah,
Alright,